Hey there, Raquel Dancho here, Member of Parliament for Kildonan and St. Paul and Shadow Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, coming to you today with a weekly update from Ottawa. I've been in Ottawa for a number of days advocating on your behalf and on behalf of my constituents in Kildonan and St. Paul, and also my portfolio of immigration. So it's been a really busy week, really morning till night. It's night here in Ottawa, and we're just doing our last video, and it's been great. I just actually voted remotely for I think the fourth or fifth time. It's quite the experience, this sort of remote virtual voting. It's not quite what it used to be, but we're making the best of it. So it is what it is. But I've had a number of opportunities to raise several issues in the House of Commons. My first question I got to do on Monday, first time since July, about family reunification. So anyone who follows me knows I've been on this issue since I got into this portfolio of immigration, and it is a huge issue facing thousands of Canadians. And of course, we know the border closures are important to protect Canadians. We can't just have an endless amount of people coming in without being tested. COVID is serious, and Conservatives do understand that. But the reality is there are thousands of Canadians that are really being sort of swept by the wayside by this Liberal government, that are facing serious issues being separated from their families. For example, on Monday, I asked a question about Sarah Campbell. She's a young lady who was set to get married, and the wedding had to be canceled because of the border closures, and shortly thereafter she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So she's battling that without the love of her life by her side. So I decided to take this opportunity and advocate on her behalf, and really on behalf of the thousands of Canadians that are separated from their loved ones. The reality is Liberals don't have a plan on this. There is no plan moving forward, no compassion and understanding of what people are going through, because Liberals get to go home to their family members. And I would wonder if it would be different if they didn't get to do that. And we've heard from the Chief Public Health Officer of Canada that we may be in this pandemic until 2022. So people that are battling cancer, on their deathbeds, facing financial hardships, there are endless compassionate grounds that I think we can make reasonable and safe, first and foremost, exemptions for people. So that's what Conservatives are advocating for. I'm really working to lead the charge on that, and we've had some great results. It certainly seems that the Liberals are on the defense on this, since I've been really advocating very strongly on the behalf of thousands of Canadians that are suffering right now. So that's going very well, but I do feel for the people that are separated, and I'm going to keep fighting on their behalf. Legislative-wise, pardon me, it's been a bit of a long day. Legislation-wise, Bill C2 came forward this week, and this was a bill to sort of take CERB from the emergency measures to the recovery measures. And they took CERB and broke it down sort of into three categories now. So we have the Canada Recovery Benefit, more or less the CERB, Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit for folks to stay home for up to 26 weeks if they're giving care to a close family member that is ill, particularly from COVID-19, and the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. So this one was kind of interesting. As you know, the Liberals are in a minority government, so they need a dancing partner if we're not going to be in an election imminently. So the throne speech is a confidence vote, and they found a dancing partner in the NDP. And the NDP's negotiating tool was this sickness benefit. Now, they want permanent 10-day paid sickness benefits for all Canadians. This one is semi-permanent. I guess it'll last until next summer and allows folks to take up to 10 days paid sick leave from their employer, but particularly from this CERB federal benefit, if they are ill or perceivably ill with COVID-19 or the like. So that's what's before Parliament. So Conservatives understand that it was governments that shut down business, shut down parts of the economy, stopped people's ability to earn an income. So as a result, it is the government and therefore the taxpayers' responsibility to compensate them for that. So we understand that, but we have voiced our very strong concerns for the $380 billion of deficits that's been spent in the last 7 months alone. It's certainly concerning, particularly for future generations. Obviously, the Liberals will have to raise taxes or cut services. It's going to be one or the other, and it's not sustainable. But regardless, we do support the emergency measures for the million Canadians that remain out of work. However, the Liberals only wanted to give us 4.5 hours to debate this $37 billion bill. That's with a B. So you do the math on what that translates into sort of million dollars per minute. It's incredibly expensive, 4.5 hours of debate. And normally, as many of you know, legislation takes several days, if not weeks, to go through the committee stages. We call upon expert witnesses. We question the ministers and the deputy ministers to make sure we understand fully the impacts of this bill to the best of our abilities. And that's really part of the parliamentary accountability that is our duty as MPs representing you. Now, that's been severely hampered in the last 7 months. We've really not had the chance to debate much at all. And so Conservatives were saying, look, we know we're in a pinch. Let's work over the weekend. Let's put in 14 hours of debate and work on the weekend and get some more information on this bill on behalf of Canadians, because Conservatives aren't afraid of a little hard work. We roll up our sleeves. Liberals, though, not so keen to work on weekends. Really shocker. But, pardon me. But really, that was disappointing for democracy. We need to ensure we are providing proper scrutiny on these types of bills and on this legislation, and the Liberals won the day on that one, unfortunately. But thankfully, the Chamber of Sober Second Thought, the Senate, has continued to fulfill their constitutional obligations and is not necessarily stalling, but is examining this bill in further detail than we were allowed to as parliamentarians. So congratulations to my Senate colleagues, and particularly the Conservative ones that are advocating for further scrutiny on this. Thank you for doing your duty on behalf of all Canadians. A couple of the other things I got to advocate today, I got to ask a question about medical cannabis grow-ops. So this is a bit of a new issue for a lot of you, but the ones I've talked to personally about this, I know it's of concern. In Garden City, in the area of Garden City, which is part of my riding, Kildonan and St. Paul, there are 20-odd houses in a very short radius, couple streets that have been bought up seemingly for the sole purpose to grow medical cannabis. Now, it is a constitutional right, really, from the Supreme Court to grow medical cannabis in this country. You know, that is what it is. And but the problem is there seems to be a loophole with the Health Canada regulations that you can be prescribed what seems to be up to 250 plants per year to grow for medical cannabis needs. Now, I don't know a lot about marijuana, but that is, from my understanding, an obscene amount of cannabis. No one person could conceivably consume that much in a year. And on top of that, so if you can get a doctor to prescribe that to you, you then have to get a license to grow it. You can get up to 4 licenses under current Health Canada regulations in one household. So conceivably, you could grow 1,000 cannabis plants in one home. So what's happening is three things that residents have raised their very vocal concerns to me about this in the Garden City area. So number one is safety. Safety is a concern. There was a family home that was broken into that was mistaken for a cannabis grow up next door. So an innocent family home was broken into by criminals because they thought it was the home next door that had possibly millions of dollars of cannabis in it. So I've heard from residents they're afraid in their own neighborhood, and really Garden City is a very nice area. So it's very concerning that folks that aren't used to sort of this kind of activity are very concerned. So that's number one. Number two is the property values are going down because of course, you take 1,000 marijuana plants or cannabis plants, you turn a 1,500, 2,000 square foot bungalow into a greenhouse. Property owners that are watching, imagine what happens to your house if you turn it into a greenhouse. I mean, the moisture is just so destructive. So it lowers that property value and, of course, has offsetting impacts on all the other homes in the area. So that's a huge concern because these are people's retirement investments that we're talking about. The third thing is the odor. Now, this isn't just sort of a puff of smoke from someone smoking marijuana. This is like a steaming trailer of dead, rotting skunks. And I'm sorry to be obscene, but I've smelt it myself because I had a hard time believing what was being told to me. So I decided, I'm going to go walk the neighborhood and smell it for myself. And I did, and it was horrendous. And there's, in particular, one elderly man in his 80s whose wife is very ill, who said he cannot open a window or go into the backyard because the smell is so strong. But anyway, I could go on about this. Rest assured, I am on this. There are about 30 members of my caucus, of the Conservative caucus, that have this impacting in their having this impacting their neighborhoods and their ridings. So we are on this. We will figure this out. There has to be a common sense solution to this that respects the rights of Canadians and also the rights of everyone else in a neighborhood. So I'm on it. And lastly, I will just end on a very positive note. Our leader, Erin O'Toole, has come out of COVID-19 and he has recovered, and he got to deliver his inaugural speech in the House of Commons floor. I got to be there for that as the leader of our party, and he did a phenomenal job. The man spoke for about an hour. Like, the stamina was incredible, and I encourage you to watch that speech. It's on my Facebook page. It's really great to see that there's a prime minister in waiting that has the competency, the vision, and the ability to communicate a message that people can relate to and understand. I'm very inspired and motivated by it. And I'll leave you with this one line he said that I really enjoyed, and I shared it on my Facebook page, was that he, Canada doesn't need a poster boy in this pandemic. They need a handyman. Oh, I just loved it, because as many of you know, I grew up in a small rural town. My dad is a handyman. My fiance is a handyman. I grew up around tons of handymen and ladies who really think outside the box and make best of what they have and find solutions in very difficult times with limited resources. And I think that's a fantastic analogy to what we're facing now in these very difficult times for Canadians in this unprecedented health and economic crisis of this pandemic. And more and more every day continue to be inspired and motivated by Erin O'Toole, and I just believe he would be a phenomenal prime minister and the guy we need to lead us through this pandemic. So thank you so much for tuning in, and looking forward to chatting with you next week. Thanks so much.